Hey lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Verdie. I am a licensed nail tech, small business owner, and content creator. So today's video, I want to talk to the people who want to start doing acrylic nails and who are looking for kind of a complete list of items you need to get started. And I will go over things you need to get started as well as some of my favorite brands. One of the most important parts of doing your nails is the prep. So you will need, for the prep work, you definitely will need some cuticle pushers and a cuticle nipper. This is just to expose the surface of the nail and just get off any extra skin that is surrounding the nail in order for a nice clean look. The second things that you are going to need are a hand file and a buffer. So the hand file you're going to use for shaping the nail, buffing the buffer for buffing the surface of the nail. There are multiple drill bits that you will need as well. You will need a cuticle, it's a ball bit, but mostly it's to get the dead skin around the cuticle area. And I call this one the long skinny one under the nail bit. So once you're done, to clean up under the nail if there's any product that got under there. Also, you can use it on the surface of the nail to get up any of that cuticle that's attached to the nail plate. You can use that for that as well. I also like these barrel bits because you can really get a close cuticle application on these, but you want to be careful because these are very easy to cut your skin with. So I have mine in a medium and a fine. And then also one of my favorite bits is the 5-in-1 drill bit. I have a medium and a coarse. So I use these mostly to clean up the cuticle areas, so the cuticles, take off any bulk of the nail if the acrylic's a little thick in some places. And I also use these bits for the removal process, which we're not getting into today, but I do have 2 removal videos that I will link in the cards above for you, and they will also be in a playlist linked at the end of the video. So another bit that is very useful is it's called a mandrel bit, and you use those with the sanding bands. I have sanding bands in fine and medium grit. So these can be used for finish filing once you're done shaping the nail if you want to buff out the surface. These can also be used for nail prep. I would personally never use anything but a fine sanding band on the natural nail, but it is useful for the nail prep. Just be careful of the speed you're using on your Efile and the grit of your sanding band. Personally, again, I would never use fine, anything over fine on my natural nail plate. So for these bits, you're also going to need an Efile, and one of my favorite e-files is this one by MAKARTT. I have been using it about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. And it's a pretty good quality and it's not too expensive. One of the things that a lot of people do is when they first start, they go buy a lot of expensive equipment. And this is nothing against Kara Sky. They have beautiful equipment, but it's a little bit pricier. That's not necessarily needed to get started. As you get better and as you progress or whatever, you still don't even need that stuff. But if it's in your budget, definitely check it out. But if it's not in your budget, don't feel like you need that stuff. Everything that I'm discussing today, I will link in the description box below with links to everything and any discount codes that I may have. So after the e-file, you're going to also need some dust brushes, and that's just to clean the surface of the nail, just to make sure you're getting all the dust off. You can see what you're actually doing, and then to get the dust off before you start applying your acrylic. So I am kind of going over the products almost in order that you would actually complete a set of nails. So hopefully that helps as well. So one of the things after, you've prepped all your nails, one of the things that a lot of people use is a dehydrator. A dehydrator isn't 100% necessary, but is good to have. If you don't want to purchase a separate dehydrator, which you don't have to, you can also use acetone, a little dab of acetone, or you can use this product by Young Nails called Swipe, and it's actually a acetone and alcohol mixed together. The purpose of the dehydrator is to clean any oils off the surface of the nail. So if you have oily skin, it's going to take that oil away so that you can do your nails, and it helps to prevent lifting. The other thing that helps prevent lifting is called a primer or a bonder. It's called, those two words are kind of interchangeable. So three of the ones that I'm just showing you three here, but the two that I use most of the time is this one from JC Beauty Concepts, and then Protein Bond from Young Nails. On this, on your prep items such as the dehydrator, the bonder, I wouldn't necessarily like buy the cheapest possible. You don't need the most expensive, but you do need good quality products as far as your primer goes. The dehydrator, you can just use acetone, but I definitely would spend a little bit more money on my primers. So you're also going to need an acrylic brush. And you don't need the most expensive acrylic brush, but here, this is another place where spending a little bit more money really makes a difference, but it doesn't have to be the most expensive. Two of my favorite brushes that I use all the time, this one is by Young Nails. It's Greg's signature brush. It is a size 12. I also use this brush by Pana, which is a size 8. And it's one of the things to be aware of is all the brushes have different sizing, so it can get kind of confusing at times, but you can see how these two brushes are essentially the same size. So that's just something else to be aware of. When you're first starting out, you might want to start off with a smaller brush and work your way up. So maybe start off with the 8, 10, 12, and then work your way up to that 16, 18, 20 size brush. I did play with a 16 brush a little bit, but it was still too much for me to handle, so I'm still working with these two brushes because right now that's what I'm comfortable with, and still perfecting my craft with them as well. So your acrylic brushes don't have to be extremely expensive, but you don't want an acrylic brush that costs $8 because it's probably not good quality. So definitely start off maybe in the $15, $20 range and then just work your way up, because you don't want to buy something expensive and ruin the brush either. So just as far as your acrylic brushes go, you don't want to go extremely cheap in that area. You're also going to need nail glue. And this is to glue your tips on. You can use nail glue to glue your tips on, or you can use a base coat. And I've used that a lot in my videos when I'm applying tips on camera. To me, I prefer to use base coat to apply my tips because the nail glue actually starts to break down in water and oils and stuff like that. So for me personally, I prefer to use base coat, but it's not required. You can use nail glue. You're also going to need some nail tips. I'm just showing you some of the nail tips that I like. I like these ones by Not Polish. And then I got these nail tips off AliExpress. Nail tips don't have to be extremely expensive either. You can just go with a reasonably priced box of nail tips. You can also use full coverage nail tips, which I tend to use a lot. I actually have these triple extra long full coverage square tips available on my website. So your nail tips don't have to be extremely expensive. The next the next subject is monomer. And if you guys are familiar with my videos, I do not play about my monomer. I don't play about MMA being in my monomer. I will link some of those videos in the cards above as well. And I also have a monomer playlist. And you really want to be careful with your monomer. You really want to do your research, and you need to be extremely careful with knowing if that monomer has MMA. MMA is illegal. It should not be used on nails. It is used for other things, but it should not be used on nails. although MMA monomer is cheaper, it does not mean it's better. I have a couple videos on monomer, which again, I will link that information for you in the cards above. I think I'll just link the monomer playlist in the cards above. But these are three of my favorite brands that do not have MMA. These are three of my favorite brands that are very universal when using different acrylic powders. And I will link those in the description box below. The next thing you will need is a dampened dish. And so this is just for your monomer. You pour your monomer in there. You dip your brush in there. I prefer a wider dish because I can get all the air bubbles out of my brush. But you can use any small glass item with it for a dampened dish. It doesn't necessarily have to be this one. But for me, I prefer a wider one. So the next thing you're going to need, obviously, is acrylic. And this is an area where when you're first starting, I wouldn't go extremely cheap because usually sometimes the cheaper acrylics are harder to work with, which is just going to slow down your process. When I started, I did use a lot of cheaper brands, which it's okay, but I would kind of try and stay in a medium price range. For sure, you are going to need a clear acrylic, especially for practicing. You're going to need some nude acrylics, and you're going to need some color acrylics. So, one of the clear that I always use is Young Nails Speed Clear. Most of my nudes are by Not Polish, and one of my favorite color acrylic brands is Eden's Rose. You're also going to need base coat. So if you're going to be doing gel polish or gel polish designs, you're going to need base coat as well so that everything adheres to whatever you're putting it on top of. I like to use a rubber base coat, but MAKARTT is also one of my favorite base coats. If you're doing gel polish, again, you're also going to need a top coat. This top coat by MAKARTT is one of my favorites. You're also going to need gel polish. I'm showing you gel polish by Eden's Rose, which is one of my favorites. Again, I told you guys I would be showing you some of the products that I prefer to use. Other brands that I like of gel polish is Madam Glam, Beetles, MAKARTT. So there's very reasonably priced brands of gel polish. You don't have to spend $20, $25 on one bottle of gel polish. So definitely gel polish is one of those things, like, you can get it cheap. Sometimes they're really good cheap and sometimes they're not. So just buy a couple brands, just play with the different brands, but the ones that I mentioned are some of my favorites. And you're also going to need a nail lamp. The nail lamp I'm showing you is actually one that came in my nail kit from school. I would just make sure that the lamp is at least 48 watts. It does not have to be one of those items that you spend a lot on, but you will definitely need a nail lamp. Also, once you're all done with everything, I highly suggest using a cuticle oil, something to put that moisture back into your skin. I am obviously showing you cuticle oil from my brand. You don't have to use my brand, but my brand is pretty dope. But definitely make sure once you're done with everything, you are putting that moisture back into your skin from the dehydrator, the acetone, and all the chemicals that you've used. So this is what I think would be a complete list of everything you need to get started. Let me know if there's anything that I left out that's an absolute necessity for you. Let me know if this list helps you out at all. Everything will be listed in the description box below. Whatever links I can find, I will find, and any discount codes I have will be down there as well. If you have any questions, leave those in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up, and I will see everybody again soon for another video. Thank you so much for spending your time with me.